Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're going straight to the heart of Bad Boy Records. You guys sent in this video.
Oh, yeah.
And it's called Mase Exposes How He Escaped Diddy's Torture. And it's a doozy. This is not some lighthearted stuff. We're talking accusations of manipulation, financial exploitation, all during their time together at Bad Boy.
Yeah. And I think what really struck me is that it's not just about like a falling out between these two big names. It really raises questions about the power dynamics you see, especially in the music industry, between a powerful executive like Diddy and then a talented artist, like Mase.
Right. Like, where's that line?
Exactly.
When you have this mentor-mentee relationship or this, boss-employee relationship, where's that line between support and then control?
Absolutely.
So let's get into these claims. Mase, he describes Diddy's tactics as manipulative, right? Alleging that Diddy intentionally kept him financially unstable, almost like as a way to maintain control.
Keep him on a short leash.
Yeah, like dangling that carrot.
Right. And Mase says that he was constantly working with the expectation of payment, but the money never really seemed to materialize.
That's got to be so frustrating.
All right.
You're pouring your heart and soul into your work, and then you're not seeing any kind of return on that. I mean, that cycle, of constantly being promised and then let down, it's got to be really hard to break free from,
Yeah.
I mean, I imagine that kind of situation can create a sense of dependency.
Right.
Almost like you're stuck because you're waiting for that payoff that never comes.
Exactly. And for Mase, it went beyond just the money. He talks about this feeling of being undervalued, disrespected, especially as he sees, his peers progressing in their careers, and he felt almost stifled or held back under Diddy's management.
Right. And it's almost like, you see other people kind of achieving what you thought you would be achieving, and you're kind of left wondering, what am I doing wrong? Right. And there was this really interesting quote. He compared his situation to being trapped in a golden cage.
Oh, wow. That's a powerful image.
Right. All the outward signs of success, but none of that, inner peace or that creative freedom.
Right. It really makes you think, what is the true cost, of fame and fortune? Is it really worth it if you're sacrificing your well-being and your sense of self? It's almost like a Faustian bargain in a way.
So let's zoom out a little bit and look at the overall picture Mase's painting of Bad Boy Records. He's saying it was a toxic environment, one where artist wealth always took a backseat to profits.
Yeah.
And the thing is, his claims aren't made in isolation. If you think back to Eugene Gandil.
Oh, Diddy's former bodyguard.
Exactly. I mean,
he had some things to say too, didn't he?
Yeah. I mean, he echoes a lot of what Mase is saying about Diddy's manipulative practices, but then Deal goes a step further with some pretty serious allegations.
Like what?
Well, I don't know if you remember, but he describes these things called freak-offs.
Oh, I'd kind of block those out.
Yeah. I mean, it's some pretty intense stuff.
What were those again? Refresh my memory.
Okay, so Deal, he describes them as these parties where, and these are his words, okay? He says that people were pressured into participating in some pretty degrading acts.
Wow.
And if true, these allegations, I mean, they take this whole situation to a much darker place.
It definitely makes you wonder what was really going on behind closed doors at Bad Boy.
And this brings us back to financial control, right? Mase, he specifically accuses Diddy of withholding his publishing rights, right?
Which basically means, for people who don't know, that even after he left Bad Boy, he wasn't really profiting from his own music.
Right, like he wasn't getting the full benefit.
Yeah, like you're creating something, but you don't own it.
Exactly. And there's even this story about Mase trying to buy back his whole catalog from Diddy for $2 million. Diddy refused. Yeah. And, publishing rights, they're incredibly valuable in the music industry.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that determines who controls the music, who profits from it. It's huge.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you can imagine how frustrating that must have been for Mase.
Oh, absolutely. It's like you're hitting all the right notes creatively, but then you're getting played when it comes to the business side of things.
Totally. And this brings us to a bit of a sensitive topic, right? The Biggie Smalls.
Yeah.
The notorious B.I.G. His death, it's been shrouded in these conspiracy theories for years. And some even point fingers at Diddy.
It's a touchy subject for sure.
Right. We have to tread carefully here. But the theories themselves, they raise some uncomfortable questions.
Yeah, especially when you consider what Mase experienced.
Right. One of the biggest claims out there is that Diddy took advantage of Biggie's inexperience. like way back.
Yeah, like when they first signed their contract.
Exactly. Some say Biggie only got $25,000 for that deal, while Diddy secured much more favorable terms for himself. And we can't forget what Gandil said. He claimed Biggie was actually thinking about leaving Bad Boy before he died.
Really?
Yeah, to pursue a better deal.
Huh. And that just adds fuel to the fire, doesn't it?
Right. And I mean, I'm not saying Diddy was involved, but
of course not.
If you think about it, if he's potentially facing the loss of his most profitable artist.
It definitely makes you think.
Right. I mean, it adds another layer of intrigue to an already really complex situation. And remember, Mase, he was a core member of Bad Boy during these tumultuous years. How do you think all of this, like this atmosphere of suspicion and violence, how do you think that impacted his experiences?
Well, I mean, it's got to be tough, right? Surrounded by all that drama and then tragedy. It makes you wonder if that contributed to his decision to leave music altogether, to become a minister.
That's a good point. Like, he was searching for something, some kind of meaning or purpose that maybe he felt was missing in that world.
Right. Almost like a spiritual awakening.
Exactly. But his exit wasn't exactly quiet. Remember that whole thing where he interrupted Diddy during that live radio interview?
Oh, yeah. Pleading to be released from his contract. That was a wild moment.
Right. Desperate. Maybe even. But it really shows how badly he wanted to break free.
It really highlights the tension.
Yeah.
You've got this artist trying to reclaim control, and then this powerful figure who seemingly won't let go. It's really a classic power struggle.
So as we keep digging deeper into this, it'll be interesting to see how Diddy responds to all of this.
Yeah.
This isn't some simple he said, she said. There are layers here, and I think we're just starting to peel them back.
Absolutely. We've got accusations, rumors of conspiracies, and a whole lot of questions about how this industry really operates. And I think what makes it so compelling is that it goes beyond the gossip. It makes us confront these uncomfortable truths about power, exploitation, the true price of success in a cutthroat industry.
And what we as consumers, as fans, are willing to accept or ignore. So buckle up, because this deep dive is just getting started. What's interesting to me about Mase's journey is that whole thing about him becoming a minister.
Yeah.
It's almost like a complete rejection of everything Bad Boy Records stood for. Like he was searching for some kind of morality and purpose that he just didn't see in the industry.
It's like he needed to cleanse himself, right, after being in such a toxic environment.
And it really speaks to the toll.
The toll.
This industry can take, not just financially, but like
emotionally. Spiritually.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So how has Diddy responded to all of this? Because he hasn't exactly been silent.
Oh, no. He's definitely fired back.
He's gone on record calling Mase a fake pastor.
Oh, wow.
And even claiming that Mase actually owes him money.
For real?
Yeah. Like $3 million for a project he says Mase never finished.
It's like a total he said, she said situation.
Well, whose story?
Yeah. Who do you believe?
Do you believe?
Right.
Right. And that's what we have to grapple with here, right? Like we have Mase's accusations, Diddy's denials.
It's messy.
It's messy.
Right.
It's hard to know the truth.
How do we as listeners and consumers of music even navigate this? Like, what does this mean?
What do we do with this information?
For the average fan who just wants to enjoy the music.
I think it challenges us to be more aware, like really mindful of the power dynamics, right?
Yeah.
Especially in entertainment. It's easy to get caught up in the glitz and glamour, right? But behind the scenes, there's so much going on, business practices that are not always ethical.
We put these people on pedestals, but they're also business people. And business is business.
And business isn't always pretty.
So what do we do? How do we hold these figures accountable? How do we even demand more transparency?
I think just having these conversations is a start.
Okay.
It forces us to think critically, to question the system. So it's not just about pointing fingers, but actually taking a look at
It's about looking at the bigger picture.
the system itself.
Exactly.
Okay. So this whole situation with Mase and Diddy, it makes you think, how many other artists are out there?
Oh, I'm sure there are tons.
Facing similar things.
Right.
Trapped in contracts. Afraid to speak out.
But they're just too afraid to speak up.
It's sad.
Or they're just trapped.
Yeah.
And that brings up a bigger question. How do we protect artists? How do we make sure that they're not taken advantage of, especially early in their careers?
Especially when they're young and don't know any better.
When they're vulnerable.
Yeah.
Like, we need checks and balances.
Exactly.
To prevent this from happening in the first place.
More transparency. better education for artists, maybe even stricter regulations.
So going back to that YouTube video, one thing that really stuck out to me was that Mase actually managed to break free from Diddy. And
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. Diddy's known for making it almost impossible for artists to leave.
oh yeah, he's got a reputation.
And he does.
Yeah.
But Mase, he pulled it off.
How?
Remember that radio interview? The one he interrupted? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That was all part of the plan.
So it wasn't just a random outburst.
Yeah.
It was strategic.
He showed up with documents ready to go,
Yeah.
declared himself a free agent.
Wow. That's bold.
Right.
That takes guts.
And Mase said that while Diddy had given him permission to work with other artists, Bad Boy was still holding on to
So he wasn't really free.
the rights to his music.
Still had control.
So even though he was collaborating, he wasn't truly independent. Bad Boy was still
Yeah.
profiting.
Taking your cut.
And that must have been so frustrating.
Yeah.
To know that you're creating, but you're not.
You don't own it.
You don't own it.
Yeah.
And the story doesn't end there. In 2020, he went on Instagram and called out Diddy again.
Publicly.
Saying that Diddy refused to sell him back his publishing rights. It was this very public
Airing of dirty laundry.
And Mase even offered Diddy $2 million for his entire catalog.
And Diddy said no.
Diddy wasn't interested. And it's like, for Mase, it was more than just business.
It was personal.
Right.
Like respect.
It was about principle.
Yeah.
About owning his art, his legacy.
I can see that.
And Mase didn't stop there. He even went and recorded a diss track. Oracle 2, The Liberation of Mase and Beatha.
Oh, snap.
Did he go hard?
He basically unloaded on Diddy, accused him of profiting off the deaths of Biggie and other artists.
Damn.
Yeah, there's this one line, "You ain't no architect. You're just a guy who knows how to market death."
Wow. It's a pretty brutal accusation.
But it kind of speaks to this whole idea of Diddy prioritizing profits over people. At least that's what Mase is saying.
Right. Yeah.
And it's something we've heard before.
Right. Like with Gandil and those allegations.
Those are still hard to wrap my head around.
If they're true, it's a really dark
Side of the industry.
That's all of this.
It's like this tangled web of accusations and denials and conflicting accounts. I don't know if we'll ever really know the full truth.
Right. But I think these conversations, they're essential.
Oh, absolutely.
They force us to look at the music industry in a different light, to be more critical.
And to think about artists.
Right. To think about the human cost.
The people behind the music.
Of all of this. It's important to remember, we've really only heard one side of this story.
There's two sides to every coin.
Mase's accusations are serious, but Diddy has denied any wrongdoing.
He's maintained his innocence throughout all of this.
Vehemently, yeah.
Yeah.
And Diddy has his own perspective, right?
Yeah.
He sees himself as this, like...
Right, he's the businessman.
This shrewd businessman.
The mogul built an empire.
He helped build this hip-hop empire.
He's got a point, you know?
Yeah.
He's launched some huge names.
Right. He's discovered and nurtured some of the biggest names in the genre.
Yeah.
And that's undeniable.
Right.
But it doesn't mean
Doesn't mean there's not another side to the story.
to just dismiss what Mase and others are saying.
We got to be careful about just like blindly praising someone just because they've achieved success.
Like, acknowledge both sides.
Finding that balance. Yeah.
Recognize the good, but be open to
accomplishment.
the possibility that maybe things weren't always ethical.
Well, also, you know, holding space for the fact that maybe there's a darker
like success doesn't automatically equal
side to this story.
Good behavior.
Right. It's like success and ethical behavior.
They're not always
don't always go hand in hand.
A package deal.
And it makes you think, like, how do we as fans view success in the music industry?
It's a good question.
Do we just ignore the bad stuff? Do we turn a blind eye?
As long as the music is good.
Like,
just because we like the product.
When did the means justify the ends?
It's tricky, right? It's like a moral dilemma almost.
It really is. And it goes beyond just music, right? It's like...
It's about how we view power in general.
Any industry, any field. It's about power dynamics. And whether we're willing to hold...
Are we willing to
hold our idols accountable?
Well, even if it means, like, shattering the image we have of them.
Even when it's hard. And it comes down to individual choices, right?
Yeah, we all have to.
We have a responsibility as consumers
own choices.
To be informed.
It's support what we believe in.
To support what we believe in.
Yeah.
And if we know about like potential exploitation or unethical behavior, does that change?
Does it change how we listen?
How we engage with an artist's music?
It's a big question.
It's a big question.
So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive into Bad Boy Records,
what have we learned?
What are the takeaways here? What do you
I mean, for me, I think Mase's story
want to leave our listeners with
is a huge reminder that there's a dark side to this industry. A lot of money, a lot of power, and that can lead to some really bad stuff.
And that artists need to be savvy.
They got to know their rights, protect themselves.
They need to know their rights.
Otherwise, they can get taken advantage of.
Absolutely. And I think, we as listeners, we need to be more critical.
We're critical.
Right. We need
to think about where our money's going.
Think about the stories.
What impact we're having.
Behind the music.
Yeah.
Think about the ethical implications of our choices.
Be a conscious consumer.
Be conscious consumers. Be informed. Be discerning. And don't be afraid to ask those.
That's the tough question.
Tough questions.
Hold people accountable.
So thank you for joining us on this deep dive. And as you keep exploring the world of music,
keep those thinking caps on.
Keep thinking critically. Never be afraid to dig a little deeper.
There's always more to the story.
Thanks for diving deep with us.